It is the day before the NFL draft. Tomorrow, the Chicago Bears pick at number 25, but will they actually stay at number 25? We're talking about the options for the Chicago Bears at the number 25 pick. Could they trade up? Could they trade down? Also, who are the most realistic options if the Bears do stay at pick number 25? We're going to talk about it all and more right after this. What's going on, Bears fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bears Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bears related. I'm the host there, Hayes, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Chi Bears Central on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go ahead and get into this content for today, y'all. And so, the NFL draft is going down tomorrow, and everybody's wondering what the Chicago Bears are going to do in the NFL draft. I've told you guys for a while now, do not be surprised if the Chicago Bears do not go the position a lot of people think that they should go with the first round pick. We'll talk about a little bit more ahead of that. But, you know, the day before the draft, everything's an option. And this is the place that Ryan Poles likes to be at, is to have tons of options ahead of him and what he could do in the draft, right? And so we know that Ryan Poles has the best player available approach, but he's also not been afraid to trade up, trade down. So I want to talk about it first, right? Like, when you look at the players that have been selected in the last 15 years at number 25, only 3 players selected at that draft position have made an NFL All-Pro team. That's Brandon Ayuk, center Tyler Linderbaum, and then also linebacker Howard as well. Like, that's it. That's it. Hightower, I said Howard. Hightower. That's it, right? Those are the only guys picked at number 25 over the last 15 years that have turned into All-Pro. Now, that does not mean there aren't some other solid players when it comes down to it, but at the end of the day, with Ryan Poles now heading into his 5th draft with the Chicago Bears, this is, we'll see what happens when it comes down to it. This is, one that he's not picking in the first 25. The only time he hasn't done that was his first season when the Bears not picking in the top 10. The only other season he did that was when the Bears didn't have a first-round pick in his first overall draft. So with that said, the questions are, what are the Bears going to do with this number 25 overall pick? And that's where things really get interesting, right, for the Chicago Bears. So let's talk about the different options for the Bears here, right? First up is staying put at number 25, right? You stay put at number 25. It puts you in the mix for players that, make a lot of sense for the Chicago Bears, right? And when you look at some of the defensive tackles that are available in this draft, a lot of them could still be there for the Chicago Bears if that's the position they want to go after. Caden McDonald, Peter Woods, they could be there. Caleb Banks probably isn't going to be there when it comes down to it, but Emmanuel Miller will. And so while every pick is a risk in the NFL, number 25 is really about weighing your options and seeing how aggressive you want to be about moving up or moving down, right? So then with that, even if the Bears do stay put at number 25, you then have to question what position are you going to go after. Do you shore up the trenches, right? Do you go after that? Do you go after a player that's going to, help the trenches, especially on the defensive side of the ball? Do you go after that defensive line? Do you go after edge? Do you go after, a defensive tackle there, right? And so that's a question that you have there. Zion Young, Keldrick Falk, TJ Parker. These are guys that still could very well be there at pick number 25 with the Chicago Bears. And, it could all make sense. With the Bears having 35 sacks last season, which was not good at all, 10 of those coming from Montez Sweat, there's no doubt that we have to add some considerable talent to this team to shore it up, right? And then do you go safety first, which is a definite option for the Chicago Bears. Like we talked about before, and I'll talk about when we talk about the players that the Bears could stay at number 25 in draft, there are a number of players there that make sense, but, Emmanuel McNeil-Warren, or even if Thieneman does end up, falling down there at staying at number 25 as well, it offers so much of exactly what Dennis Allen really wants. Now, of course, Caleb Downs would almost be the perfect one, but it's highly unlikely he's probably going to be there for the Bears at number 25. But you have guys that make schematic fits for the Chicago Bears and that are day one starters on this Bears team if the Bears were to go ahead and draft them, and that's what the Bears can do. And then, of course, you have the option of if you don't stay put, you trade up. Now, what's the mechanism the Bears use to trade up? That's the question. Do you package one of your second-round picks and your first-round pick to move up in the draft? Do you package a future pick and your first-round pick to move up so that way you keep your 2 second-round picks? There's a lot of different options for Ryan Poles if he does decide to trade up in the draft, but you got to have somebody, A, you have to have a target in mind, and B, you have to have a team that's willing to trade down as well. And this is one of those drafts where it really depends on how the first maybe 5 to 8 to 10 picks go. After that, you could probably start seeing some trade downs depending on who's on or off the board and the position of need for the team. I wouldn't be surprised if something unexpected maybe happens and we see an overall trade that we don't expect. But, this is one of those drafts where I just don't know if you're going to see the number of kind of trade downs that we've seen in some other, trade downs in some other, in some of the other drafts. And then you have the option to trade back, right? Like, that's what you have to do. This is a draft that's deep in edge, that's deep in defensive tackles. And that's why I've said before that, the Bears getting a defensive lineman or using their 2 second-round picks to draft defensive linemen shouldn't be a surprise if that ends up being what happens, because you do have, a lot of depth there at that position in this particular draft that the Bears could look to take advantage of, and that's the benefit of it. But then you have the other part of it, and that's the Bears trading back from their own pick. That's the question that happens to that. Could the Bears acquire another second-round pick to trade back some? There's 3 options I look at in this draft of teams that the Bears could trade back from. The Houston Texans being one of them, right? They are at pick number 28. So if the Bears do move from 25 to 28, the drop-off is not huge from them, and you have a chance to pick up an extra additional asset as well, right? When you look at the Houston Texans as well, they're in the same conference as the Buffalo Bills. Those teams are going to have the same needs overall. So the Bears could take advantage of the Texans' needs and try to get them to trade up for them. If they get that chance, it'll be hard for the Bears to pass up. You're only moving down 3 potential spots. Now, of course, Ryan Poles is going to have his intel. He's going to have his feelings on where the draft board could go for the Chicago Bears before they do that. But it's definitely an option for the Bears, and we just got to see what's going to happen. So we'll see there. But do keep an eye out on the Houston Texans being one of those teams that could very well trade back with the Chicago Bears, and the Bears could pick up some additional assets to get to do that and make that happen. So we'll see, right? Now, you're only moving up 3 spots if you're the Houston Texans, so maybe it's not as much that you're getting back in that, but as we've seen with Ryan Poles, every additional asset gets used and it's beneficial. So we'll see what the Bears do. Then the New York Jets are another team that could do that, right? The Jets definitely need a quarterback. And a lot of mocks have, Alabama's Ty Simpson being available with the 25th overall pick. So could we see the New York Jets, want to target Simpson as their quarterback of the future? And they could do that. Jackson Dart, for example, went 25th last season. And the New York Giants traded a late 3rd-round pick in this draft, as well as a future 3rd-round pick to move up from 34 to 25 to get Jackson Dart. It'll be almost the same situation for the New York Jets this season as they pick number 33rd. So, that's a nice fall off for the Chicago Bears, but it's not a huge one, right? It really depends on how the Bears evaluate the talent. I personally don't think the Bears are going to trade back in this draft. I think if anything, we could see aggressive move up. Well, trade back from number 25, but we shall see. Like, anything's possible there. The Jets also have an early 4th-round pick. They don't have a late 3rd, but they do have an early 4th-round pick. And so the difference is only 5 picks where the Chicago Bears could take advantage of that. Next up, the Arizona Cardinals, right? They're basically in the same situation as the New York Jets. The Cardinals picked 34th. The Jets picked 33rd. The Jets also have a 103rd pick, while the Cardinals pick is 104th. So it'll be a very similar situation if the Bears were to trade with the Arizona Cardinals, in the same situation that they go on a package, their 2nd-round pick and an early 4th-round pick to move up to get that 25th pick, because they are also in need of a quarterback of the future also. And so there's that. There's only one quarterback that's worth trading up for, and that is, that quarterback. And so, could the Bears take advantage of people that want to go after Ty Simpson and try to trade back and gain some additional assets? It's really what it comes down to. So, just to recap that, the teams that I think are the best candidates to trade, if the Bears do want to trade back, the Houston Texans, they could trade back because their picks only 3 picks lower than the Chicago Bears. They can want to move up because they have similar needs to the Buffalo Bills, a team that's in their division. So they are in their conference, so they can want to do that. The New York Jets and the Arizona Cardinals as 2 teams that both do need a quarterback. And with Ty Simpson projected to be there at number 25, and those guys having picks that are 6-7 picks lower than the Chicago Bears, maybe they do reach out to the Bears, and maybe the Bears could drive a hard bargain and really get some real meaningful assets back that help them in this draft to get what they need, again, because defensive line is very plentiful in this draft, the Bears can feel very confident about getting that done. It really comes down to if they're not happy with the options that are there at number 25, which I think we're going to have plenty of options at 25 that make sense for the future of this team and the present, which we'll talk about here in a second. But that's just something to look out for the Chicago Bears. So let me know what you guys think on that one down below. On the Bears' options to trade back in this draft, do you think any of these teams that I mentioned could be viable trade back options for the Chicago Bears? Or would you like to see the Chicago Bears be more aggressive and trade up in the draft if that opportunity presents itself? Let me know what you guys think on that down below. With that said, I want to talk about, yesterday I talked about dream scenarios at 25 for the Chicago Bears. On today's episode, I want to talk about more realistic options at number 25 if the Bears do stay at 25 in tomorrow's draft. Let's go ahead and get into them. And these are players from all different types of positions because, I don't know if you guys have been seeing the mocks, and it also came out yesterday that the Bears very well could go tackle at number 25, which I don't know if that's Ryan Poles trying to throw teams off the scent of what he's going to do, because that Poles doesn't like leaks. He doesn't like letting things out, but we'll see. But at the number one option for the Chicago Bears is the guy that I talked about earlier, Emmanuel McNeill-Warren. I think that this guy's just so perfectly made for the Chicago Bears system. When you look at what you lost with Jaquan Brisker and Kevin Byard, for that matter, Emmanuel McNeill-Warren has that ball hawking ability. He has a lot of things there when it comes down to it. He's one of the most mock players to go to the Chicago Bears. There are also some mocks that are starting to believe that Emmanuel McNeill-Warren could be available as an early second-round pick, which could play into the Chicago Bears trading back, as I said before, if Ryan Poles does feel confident that Emmanuel McNeill-Warren could fall to that spot. This is a physical guy that is going to be so complementary to exactly what Dennis Allen wants to do schematically. And in a lot of ways, Emmanuel McNeill-Warren is more scheme versatile than even what Jaquan Brisker was. This is a guy that, like I said, ball hawk, can be used in run blitzing, pass blitzing, all that type of stuff. You can get so creative with having guys like Kyler Gordon, Emmanuel McNeill-Warren, and if Zay Frazier lives up to the hype that Dennis Allen had around him around his draft, like, it's so much that you can do with schematically with those guys in your secondary. And I think that Dennis Allen would absolutely love Emmanuel McNeill-Warren being on his team and what that frees him up to do with that roster. So Emmanuel McNeill-Warren, still one of the number one guys on my board for the Chicago Bears. And also 9 career forced fumbles in college. Listen, telling y'all, Emmanuel McNeill-Warren is one of them ones. And I really believe that he could become a lot of Chicago Bears fans' favorite players. Then let's go more traditional. Edge, Zion Young out of Missouri. Now, we talked about, there have been some questions on if Zion Young is actually the schematic fit for the Chicago Bears and what they need at the edge. But listen, Zion Young is a guy that brings so much explosiveness to that defensive line that needed it. The Chicago Bears only had 35 sacks last year as a team. You have a defensive edge trio of Austin Booker, Zion Young, and Montez Sweat. I like that. I like that a lot for the Chicago Bears. I think it's really versatile in how you can use those guys. Do not be surprised if you see sometimes either Austin Booker or Zion Young drop back to linebacker to have 3 edges out there in clear run situations against schematic stuff. And the thing with Zion Young is the talent's there. While he's not the most flawless scheme fit for the Chicago Bears, sometimes you just bet on the talent. And this is a guy that has the potential to be a very disruptive edge at the NFL level. And it's a position that the Chicago Bears need to shore up, that they need to bring to this team, and they need to be much better, especially if they want to make that next step up to go from a team that won a playoff game to a team that can hopefully win the division and win 2 or 3 playoff games, which you know what that means if you do that. So we'll see what happens with that one. But Zion Young is definitely a viable option here at number 25 for the Bears. And for some Bears fans and some, pundits as well, he's become one of the favorites for the Chicago Bears to draft at that position because it is a position of need. It's at a player that, has a lot of you just look at the raw talent. If you take scheme out of the question, just look at the raw talent for Zion Young, it's hard not to fall in love with a player that has the amount of talent that he does. The question just becomes about how much does the scheme fit may turn the Bears off from a player like him. And that's the question that we could only find out on draft day. But Zion Young is definitely a name that you could hear called tomorrow at pick number 25. Next up, Caden Proctor, the offensive tackle out of Alabama. I said earlier, before we went into this segment, that a lot of mocks are starting to have the Chicago Bears drafting an offensive tackle, and that tackle being Caden Proctor. And that's just the reality of it. Right now, Courtney Cronin was one of the first ones to release that the Bears could go offensive line with pick number 25, and then we started hearing it from other places as well, so much so that we heard yesterday, don't be surprised if the Bears do go offensive tackle. if Caden Proctor has wowed the Chicago Bears that much, that they would be willing to take a position that I guess you could still say is a need with Ozzie Trapillo being out. I know Darius is going to be furious if the Chicago Bears draft an offensive tackle there, but it's a reality of what could happen there. It could very well happen that we could see that. And let's just see what it does for the Chicago Bears if that ends up being the case. But Caden Proctor is definitely a player that could be there on the board for the Bears at number 25. And if you listen to some of the pundits around, it can make some sense. I look at it this way, right? I wonder what that means for Ozzie Trapillo's future, right? Like, I get it. He had a injury that could very well have him out the entirety of the year. And it could be some long-term implications to that as well. It's very possible with the weight that Ozzie Trapillo has, having that ruptured patella tendon, that could be something that even if he's cleared to get back on the football field, it could take a long time to get him back out there. Caden Proctor there at number 25 would instantly be the starting left tackle for the Chicago Bears team. And it's a player that, would be worthy of it. The question is, I think it's just, if Ozzie Trapillo was not hurt, the Bears wouldn't even be looking at that. But the reality is he is, so the Bears could go a different direction. Next up, Dylan Thineman, right? The other safety that could be there at number 25. And this is another guy that I think, brings a lot of exactly the schematic fit that the Chicago Bears like when it comes down to it. Now, there is a really good chance that Thineman could be off the board before the Bears do pick. But if he still is there, listen, I love him. A 3-year starter in college. He has size, speed, scheme versatility to thrive in the NFL. The instincts that he has as well is something that I see Dennis Allen absolutely loving for the Chicago Bears. You talk about continuing what we saw last year with the Bears and being, just that secondary that got takeaways. Thineman has the potential to be that, but also more functional in the sense. Now, I don't think he's as scheme versatile as Emmanuel McNeil-Warren. I do think Dylan Thineman may be the better overall talent, even though he may not be as versatile, right? Those are two very different things. Either way, I think that the Bears could get a really damn good safety in here. And like I said, it's a position of need. Nobody should be mad if the Bears draft a safety. It is a position of need, right? And the number of people that get upset anytime they hear that the Bears could go safety with their first-round pick, it makes me question, what do y'all want, right? Like, because again, it's about adding the right talent at the right positions. It's not about all of that. So, we'll see what happens in regards to that. But yeah, we'll see. I think when it comes down to it, if Thineman is there, the thing that will make it interesting is if Thineman and Emmanuel McNeil-Warren are both still there at number 25 and the Bears do draft a safety, which one would they go with? I want to hear that from you guys on this one down below. If Thineman and Emmanuel McNeil-Warren are both on the board at pick number 25 and the Bears do go safety, which one would you draft? Let me know what you guys think about that. The other guy that I think is realistic for the Chicago Bears is TJ Parker, the edge out of Clemson, right? You talk about, again, adding a guy that can help take off some of that relief, that stress from Montez Sweat being the only guy with double-digit sacks. Now, I'm not going to pick a rookie to get double-digit sacks in their rookie year, but much like I said with Zion Young, getting TJ Parker, who I do think is kind of more natural schematic fit for what Dennis Allen likes to do, having him, Austin Booker, Montez Sweat, that's going to get you 3 edge rushers there that are all going to be pit bulls. And that's the thing that I like when it comes down to it. TJ Parker is a physical powerhouse. That's what it comes down to. He is just an overwhelming powerhouse. That's how he gets his job done. And he would instantly elevate the Chicago Bears pass rush to levels that we needed, right? And so, I can't be mad at any of these guys if the Chicago Bears do draft him. I would have a huge question if they do go offensive tackle of what the long-term plan is there. But at least for next season, it would still make some sense. So just to recap what we have the Bears, the 5 most realistic options for the Chicago Bears: Emmanuel McNeil-Warren, the safety out of Toledo; Zion Young, the edge out of Missouri; Caden Proctor, the offensive tackle out of Alabama; Dylan Thineman, the safety out of Oregon, which is my boy Steve-O's favorite college. So shout out to if the Bears do get a duck in here. And then TJ Parker, the edge out of Clemson. So there's a lot of options for the Chicago Bears ahead of the draft. And again, like I said at the start of the show, this is exactly what Ryan Poles wants, is flexibility to do whatever he needs to do for the Chicago Bears. But also, I think do not be surprised if Ryan Poles does decide to push his chips in and try to jump into the draft. I'm sure Ryan Poles is going to be making those calls to see if he can trade up to get an elite talent in here for the Chicago Bears. It's going to be a fun draft night. We have 3 nights of the NFL draft: Thursday, Friday, Saturday. We're going to be live for all 3 nights. Saturday, I may not be on, but the guys will be on. We'll still be having our daily episodes drop over that course in time. So I want to hear from you guys in regards to this one. who are the in the first 3 picks for the Chicago Bears, the first round pick, the 2 picks in the second round, who are your favorite prospects for the Chicago Bears at those 3 different picks? Let me know that in the comment section down below. Interact with each other. Again, this ain't about arguing. It's just about interacting, having conversations with Bears fans. So I want to hear from you guys. Who are some of your favorite prospects in this draft? The Bears are in one of the most interesting spots in this draft. And I'm telling you right now, Ryan Poles has another chance to absolutely cook in this draft like he did in last year's draft. Or he could also completely overthink it, and we could be left holding our dicks. So that's a possibility there as well. So we'll see what the Chicago Bears do with it, man. Make sure you guys drop your thoughts down in the comment section. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel as well. Hit that notification bell so you never miss an episode. And as always, you can follow us at Shy Bear Central on every social media platform. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns. ChicagoBearsCentral@gmail.com. And lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-242-9336. We are the #1 spot for everything Chicago Bears related, but that is thanks to you, lovely and beautiful people. And like I like to end every episode on, Chi-Town up, but Bear down. Love you guys. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.